Hello everyone, this is BK2421, and this is my very first album review. It is now the year 2015, and I've decided that I want to start uploading more original content and expanding my channel a lot more. So I thought, since my channel's based mostly around music, what better way to expand my channel than to diverge into more musical-based subjects. So, here we go. The reason I chose this album to be my very first album review is because, honestly, if it wasn't for this album, I very well may not be here. I grew up listening to polka music, as my dad and uncle actually played for a very well-renowned polka star named Jimmy Sturr, and that was the kind of music I grew up with. So I started listening to stuff like Green Day and Linkin Park around my preteen years, but about 10 years ago, actually, I first discovered this band called Avenged Sevenfold, and I had first heard them through Madden 2005, when Bat Country came on the soundtrack. So I'm going to now review Avenged Sevenfold's 2005 album, City of Evil. This album, to me, is a classic, just to me, in my opinion, because this is essentially my first true taste of what heavy metal was and had to offer. I'd never really listened to it, as I stated, never listened to heavy metal much. I had a generic opinion on heavy metal. I just thought it was all screaming, yelling, just kind of just garbage, But then I heard this album, and I went, wow, this is really, really interesting, really technically sound, and just, it got my blood pumping, it got me excited, and that's essentially what I really love about the heavy metal genre. And a lot of people look at this album and look at Avenged Sevenfold as a band. They look at them, and a lot of people question whether or not they're heavy metal or not. They say, oh, they're hard rock, they're not metal, they don't scream. Well, to me, what this band is, and this was truly made, I believe this album, to the biggest, the broadest expense of what I'm about to say. Avenged Sevenfold, to me, is neither hard rock nor heavy metal. To me, they are in the middle. They are what I call, I think they've actually, with this album, created their own genre. To me, they are bridge metal. Something that, it's not quite hard rock, it's a little heavier than that, and it's not quite the heavy metal. It's right in the middle. It allows the people that are listening to hard rock to cross over and start getting into bands like Pantera, Slayer, the early Metallica. That's essentially what happened with me. And this album really helped expand my musical taste. And a lot of people don't like Avenged Sevenfold in today's day and age. They say, oh, sellouts, blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? While this was their first mainstream success with an album, you've got to look at it do you really want the world listening to, a bunch of people like Miley Cyrus, Waka Flocka Flame, who just all these garbage artists out there? Do you really, would you rather have people listening to that, or would you rather people listening to Avenged Sevenfold and possibly expanding out into the world of heavy metal and all it has to offer? So that's what this album means to me. Right from the get-go, Beast and the Harlot, it's got a pounding, just, it has that epic intro that every album should have. Every album's first song should be something that's going to grasp your attention and make sure you want to keep it. So that's exactly what Beast and the Harlot does. And the album has a great way of going through the entirety. When you start listening to the album, you want to finish it. And Avenged Sevenfold is very good with doing that, where the entire album tells a story rather than just, oh, there's a few good songs here and there. They all mesh very well together, and they all work. So that to me is it pieced together this album. Me as a guitarist, this was a fantastic, just the guitar work on this album is amazing. I have already covered 4 songs: Beast and the Harlot, Blinded in Chains, Back Country, and Strength of the World. I do plan to one day do the Seize the Day solo. But just the technicalities of what they did on guitars, it has that great 80s metal, it's really, really well done on this album. And it's not repetitive, it's not rehashed. I mean, people say, oh, it sounds a lot like Metallica, Guns N' Roses, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the thing. Why is that necessarily a bad thing? Like, those bands are fucking awesome. So, you know, yeah, they kind of sound like it, but, you know, at the same time, like, you can tell the difference, and if you can't, you're just being ignorant, in my opinion. They definitely don't sound exactly like Metallica or exactly like Guns N' Roses. Discounting their most recent output with their song This Means War, because that is sad but true. But, I digress. This is an album that really, it shot Avenged Sevenfold into the mainstream, and it's allowing more people to become fans of metal, and I think more people should appreciate that, and I commend Avenged Sevenfold for what they do, and the reason why I'm such a big fan of Avenged Sevenfold is that they don't just keep one sound. As much as I enjoy this album, it's a good thing that they didn't stick with just this sound. They changed it, and they went with a more experimental sound on their next album, which was the self-titled. And then after the Rev passed away, rest in peace, the Nightmare was a tribute to him and had a more dark feel. And then, of course, they had the classic heavy metal album with Hail to the King. And prior to City Evil, they had the metalcore sound, the half screaming, half singing. And prior to that, they had the punk hardcore, you know, metalcore sound with sounding the seven trumpets. So Avenged Sevenfold to me is a band that really, they're ahead of the curve in terms of musicianship, in my opinion, because they're not afraid to go and try different things, which a lot of bands seem to do. The one complaint I have about this album, now that I've been listening to it for over 10 years, is mainly M. Shadow's voice, because on this album you can hear a lot of whininess, just kind of weird noises at parts, and that was the main concern with a lot of people that I talked to when I was first getting into this band. They said they didn't like his vocals. I didn't mind it because I was just like, oh, these guitars and the drums, they're so cool. But now that I've listened to it for so long and I've heard the progression of his voice throughout the career after City of Evil, it's definitely noticeable that it was subpar, but he has definitely gotten better. And it was also in part to the minor surgery that he had, but luckily he can still scream. In my opinion, this album deserves a 9.1 out of 10, and I highly recommend it to any person that may have not listened to it already. If you are a fan of 80s thrash or any sort of... if you enjoy good guitar work, good drum work, this is an album I highly recommend. Alright, so that was my first album review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, opinions, please feel free to comment. I will respond. And if you want, and feel free to leave any suggestions on any other albums you would like me to listen to, as I plan to keep doing this, and, you know, listening to music is a great thing, so I'll gladly talk about any album you have to show me. So it doesn't have to be just heavy metal. Send me anything you want me to listen to and talk about. All right? Have a great day, guys.